Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my channel. So if you're watching this video, this is the second part of my off-road navigation videos, where in first part I spoke about Osmand as one of the off-road navigation applications that you can use in your handheld or a tablet device. In this part I will talk about planning short travels or short trips or day trips as I call them, where I would just plan a normal day trip from Brisbane, which would be 2.5 hours of drive. So first I'll do the hardcore part where we'll plan a trip from Brisbane to Glasshouse Mountains, which offers a lot of four-wheel drive tracks. And in the second part I would do a day trip from the northern side of Brisbane, where we would cover a few forests and mountains and probably even beaches. So let's take a look at it. I'll just choose Brisbane City as the starting point, and there are two ways of creating a map. One is directions and another one is plan a route. Directions is basically when you know the address of your destination, and plan a route is basically when you don't know the address and you just want to design the route by clicking on waypoints on the map. So when I say planning a trip to Glasshouse Mountains for off-roading purposes, you don't know the address, so you'll just have to go to the map, you'll have to scroll and you'll have to zoom in to Glasshouse Mountains and just look at the roads that are shown on the map. So you see, as per the legend, all these green lines are four-wheel drive tracks. And how do I know that these are four-wheel drive tracks, or how do I know that this is a highway? There's a legend that's available online. Now I couldn't find a way to find a legend within the app itself, so I refer to the online legend which is available on their website, which shows the design of each line on the map itself. So you have railways, aerialways, you have routes, and you have paths. So these are all walking tracks. So you can see it's a very long list. You'll have to take your time to explore this, but you will be able to find and differentiate between a highway and a four-wheel drive track. Another thing to keep in mind is when you zoom in, the track will show you whether the track is closed or whether the entrance is open or not. So for example, when you come through the Mount Birwa road, you can see that there's a small parking spot here, and there's a resting table. Mount Birwa has a walking track, and so these dotted lines show the difficulty of the walking track. So if I just go back to the online legend, and if I go back to the walking section, if you look at this, it shows the walking grade, the difficulty. So you'll be able to differentiate between grade 5 and grade 2 and grade 1 and so on. And so if you want to climb this mountain, you can you'll know what sort of a track you're looking at. This is one of the reasons that I should have mentioned that why I use this app as well. So this is not only an off-road map for vehicles, this is also an off-road map for all your activities where you are walking, hiking, cycling, river rafting or whatever, because you can see streams, you can see all sorts of information available on a map. So whenever you are out and about, and if you need something that you can access without internet, then this is the thing that you can probably use. So if I zoom in, so coming back to the topic, I can see that there is no sign of a gateway asking us, like letting us know that there's a stop, because generally they would place a red dot or a black dot highlighting that you cannot enter from this road. But since there is nothing, you know that you can come here and you can start driving on this off-road track. You can pretty much also see that when you start driving, there is a waterway and there's a water crossing, and this is a tower, and you can even see it, so it goes straight from here to, I mean, it goes throughout the Glasshouse Mountains, which is depicted on the map. So if someone told you that you need to go to the power lines track, you know where the power line track is, because you can see the power lines here, and once you enter through this road, you can either come to the power lines track from here, or you can take this path and you can come to the power lines track here. And now coming to the designing part, you can either start your trip from Brisbane, but I'd like to start my trips from the actual starting point of the track, because till the starting point I prefer using Google Maps, and then from Google Maps I switch to the Osmand maps for my off-road navigation. So let's say we are trying to do the power lines track. This is Twin View Road, and we'll go to planner route, because we don't know the address of this road. Now if there's a spot that you know the address of, then you can definitely enter the address in the directions and then just use the addresses, but in this case we'll use a planner route, and you will just create a new route. So it will open a small panel over here on the bottom of the screen. This option means whether you want a straight line or whether you want to be driving. So that means that if you select a straight line, and if you select point A, the point B would be a straight line. However, if you select driving, the point A to point B would be a line for driving. So coming back to the power lines track, this is not where we wanted to start from, so we'll just undo and we'll remove our starting positions. So I'll just drag the map to our starting point, which is over here. I can zoom in just to make sure that it's accurate, and then just click on it so that you select it, and then you can zoom out. So let's say this would be the first stop. I'll just change the style to driving again, and this is going to be the second stop, third stop, and let's say you wanna try something else, so maybe undo and make this one as your third stop, and then you want to come back to the main road. So once you are done, you can go to options and save as a new track, where you can have the file name as anything that you want, and you can select a folder. So I have two folders within my Android folder library, and I can just save it in any of those folders. So once you have created this track, you can click on the track and you can look at details. It will show you the altitude, it will show you the total distance of your track, which is 6.32 kilometers. It will show you the average altitude. So on the day of travel, what I'd do is that I would just go to my places and I would go to tracks, and then I would go to the track. I'll be able to see the Glasshouse Mountains power lines track, which I just created. Open the track and then click on directions. So this will start the directions of this track from my position. So let's say if I'm not using Google Maps, I can use this map to drive from my actual position. If I'm using Google Maps, I can reach to this point using Google Maps, and then from here I can switch on to Osmand and I can start this map, which will, and you can see that it has taken my position as Brisbane, and it has started the track from Brisbane city itself. Now moving to the second part of our video, we are just doing a basic touring type of a day trip, where we would just want to go through a few mountains, cross through lakes and forests, and let's say we need to go up to Noosa Heads from Brisbane. I'd select Noosa Heads and I'll just select directions, By default it has selected Brisbane City for me, but you can enter your address. Now you can see that the route is pretty straight, where it has taken the highway route, and since we want to go through a few forests, let's say we want to go through Samford Valley and then Somerset Lake, I'll zoom in a bit and select just a waypoint, click on directions and add it as the first intermediate destination, which will create the first waypoint of our trip. You'll see that the map will try to recalculate, but it will bring you back to the highway once you have reached your first destination. So you'll have to add a second destination, which is somewhere here, because I would want to go through Kilcoy, and then from Kilcoy I'll go through Kenilworth, and from Kenilworth to Noosa. So I'll probably add this point over here, or I can select Kilcoy, click on directions and add it as the last intermediate destination, which will create it as the second waypoint. Now you can see that it has created a route through the D. Aguilar National Park, and then it's bringing you back from Kilcoy back to the highway. If you want to add more adventure, you can just zoom into the map and you can also try alternate routes. For example, if you zoom into the map, you will see these roads that are going through creeks, and you can see that there are a few waterfalls as well. So if you keep on zooming in, you will see these icons which will show you waterfalls. So you can click on directions, you can select one of this point of interest, click on directions and add it as last intermediate destination. Let the map do its job. Sometimes it takes around 1 to 2 minutes, and now you can see that it has planned a trip which is all the way through forests. And even if you look at this, you can see that the third waypoint is the waterfall that you selected, and it is actually taking you through a really good route. It will take you through Mount Rollman, which is around 30 meters high, and from here you can see the total distance that you will have to go through, which is around 250 kilometers. Now if you've already done, let's say you've already done this part of the road previously and you want to skip all of this, you can go to directions again, you can edit your waypoints, and you can remove the first waypoint, which is this one. The moment you remove your first waypoint, the map will recalculate directions and it will directly take you to your second waypoint, which is now your first waypoint. So in this case, when you see that it has recalculated the directions, so now you can see that the total kilometers are 232, which is still less than 250 initially. Another thing that you can also see is that, let's say you are carrying a caravan, you can go to directions and you can click on details to see the elevation map. So if you can see, when you're starting, if you are carrying a caravan and if you are trying to do this type of a trip, this part of the map will show you the elevation that you have to go through. For example, if you look at this point over here, which is this one, you can see that there is an elevation of 16%. So this graph shows you the elevation and the descent of your journey, and you can see that there's an elevation of 16%. Now it's up to you whether you want to take a caravan through that or not. If you don't want to do that, you can edit the map and remove the second waypoint, where the map will reroute you from Kilcoy to Noosa Heads through the highway, which is a more suitable route for caravans. However, if you want to do that adventure, you can still go ahead with this route with a 16% grade and you can do that trip. And if you keep on moving, you can see that even the descent is around minus 12%. Okay, so this will help you decide whether the route is suitable for you or not. The other thing that you can look for is the road type or the surface. So this surface over here is pretty much gravel. This is highway, this is asphalt, not an issue. However, if you move your cursor to this point, you will know that from here to here we are going through an unsealed road. So this will also help you decide whether you want to take this route or not. Since we are doing this closer to Brisbane and closer to cities, it's not an issue, but if you go to outback and if you are trying to take routes that are completely isolated, this type of information will help you decide whether you want to go through that route and risk it or not. Once you have designed your route, you can click on this icon, you can save the GPX file, and whenever you are ready to travel, you can simply go to your places, which you can find here. You can select the route that you saved and you can click on the route and you can start traveling by clicking on this icon. So hopefully this video was informative enough, and in the next part I'll try to show you how to plan longer routes where you have multiple days of travel and what to look for and what to take care of while creating those routes. I understand that most of the day trips would be planned in the morning and you will not have to save a GPX file, you will simply create a route and you will hit the road straight away. But when it comes to longer travels where you have multiple days of driving, you would want to plan those GPX files way in advance, and you should be able to share those GPX files with the rest of the convoy. So stay connected for the next part of the video, and hope to see you again. Thanks for watching.